"Oh no, look at this beauty. It's chasing me." The trembling voice on a phone recording captures the exact moment when awe turned into terror. A wild bear, towering and unstoppable, is no longer just a fascinating creature on a roadside in Romania. It has become a predator, and a man's life is now balanced on the edge of a single heartbeat. We live in a time when adventure fits in the palm of your hand. A phone, a selfie, a few seconds of video, they become trophies of bravery, proof that we've lived something extraordinary. But sometimes, the pursuit of that perfect photo isn't just risky. It's fatal. This is the story of Omar Farang, a 48-year-old traveler who rode through the legendary Transfăgărășan Road, one of the most beautiful highways in the world, carved into the Carpathian Mountains of Romania. A road where mist curls around ancient peaks, and legends of wolves and bears are not just stories, but daily reality. To Omar, this was beauty. To the bear watching him from the tree line, this was intrusion. In just a few fleeting moments, fascination turned into tragedy. Omar's phone captured not just his adventure, but his final seconds alive. His smile, his admiration, his whispers of beautiful, were transformed into desperate cries for help. And behind this single tragedy lies something far larger, a warning ignored too many times. Across the world, more than 250 people have died in the past decade while attempting dangerous selfies. Cliffs, rivers, wild animals. Places where nature demands respect, but where vanity and thrill-seeking push boundaries too far. Omar's death was not an isolated accident. It was part of a pattern that keeps repeating, claiming lives of those who believe a photo is worth the risk. Today, we uncover the haunting story of Omar, the wild bear that crossed his path, and the growing clash between human curiosity and nature's untamed force. This is not just a story about one man's mistake. It's about all of us, and the question of how far we'll go for the perfect shot. To understand the tragedy that unfolded on that mountain road, we need to step back and understand the man at the center of it all. Omar Farang was not a reckless teenager chasing internet fame, nor a thrill-seeker looking for shock value. He was a 48-year-old Italian motorcyclist, a father, a husband, and a man who carried with him a restless spirit. Friends described him as someone who felt alive only when the road stretched endlessly before him, the wind pressing against his face, and the hum of his motorcycle guiding him forward. He was passionate, curious, and deeply moved by beauty. His camera was always within reach, not as a tool for vanity, but as a diary. For Omar, every picture was a memory, every video a testimony that life should never be lived halfway. He wanted to capture the feeling of standing on a mountaintop, of crossing borders, of being small in the face of landscapes that humbled him. That spirit brought him to Romania in the late summer of 2025. His destination was the Transfăgărășan Road, a name whispered among motorcyclists with the same reverence as the Alps or the Pacific Coast Highway. It is often called the most beautiful road in the world, and for good reason. This ribbon of asphalt winds through the Carpathian Mountains like a serpent, climbing steep switchbacks, cutting through forests so dense they seem to swallow the sky, and opening onto valleys painted gold in the late sun. To many travelers, this road is a pilgrimage. It's not just about reaching a destination. It's about experiencing the raw beauty of one of Europe's last wild frontiers. And for Omar, it was exactly the kind of place that called to his soul. But beauty often hides shadows. The Carpathians are not empty. They are alive. Alive with legends, with echoes of wolves howling in the night, with stories of spirits that wander the mist. And above all, they are alive with bears. Romania holds one of the largest populations of brown bears in all of Europe, numbering between 6,000 and 7,000. Powerful, intelligent, and unpredictable, these animals are kings of the forest. Locals know their strength. For generations, they have learned respect and fear. Tourists, however, often see only the romance. A chance to stand close to something wild. A photograph to post online. An illusion of connection. Omar was different from most, but he was still human. And like so many who came before him, he felt the irresistible pull of the wild. He saw beauty where danger lingered. His adventurous spirit, which so often gave him life, was about to place him on a path that no thrill, no photograph could ever justify. In his mind, this was not recklessness. This was wonder. He believed life should be lived without fear, that experiences mattered more than warnings. He did not see himself as a man trespassing into danger. He saw himself as a traveler honoring the moment, capturing a story that he could share with those he loved back home. But the Carpathian Mountains are not a stage. They do not perform for us. And wild animals do not understand our admiration. To them, humans are intruders, sometimes tolerated, sometimes ignored, but never truly safe. Omar's arrival on the Transfăgărășan Road would begin as just another chapter in his long history of adventures. But as the sun dipped low and the shadows deepened across the valleys, his passion for beauty would collide with the reality of nature's power. And what started as a joyful ride through one of the world's most stunning landscapes would soon become a haunting lesson about the price of forgetting where the wild begins. The Transfăgărășan Road is more than a masterpiece of engineering. It is a borderland between the human world and the wilderness. And along its twisting paths and dramatic cliffs lives one of the most awe-inspiring and dangerous creatures of Europe, the brown bear. Romania is home to nearly half of Europe's brown bear population. Between 6,000 and 7,000 of these giants roam the Carpathians, commanding respect as much as fear. They can weigh over 600 pounds, run faster than a racehorse, and strike with a strength that can shatter bone in an instant. Yet, to the untrained eye, they often appear calm, even curious. Their thick fur and lumbering gait trick people into believing they are approachable, perhaps even friendly. But behind those glossy eyes are instincts sharpened by centuries of survival. A bear is not a companion. A bear is a predator. The locals of Argeș County know this truth well. For them, the bear is a symbol of pride, but also a constant reminder that danger lives just beyond the tree-line. They see the warning signs posted along the road. Do not stop. Do not feed the bears. Keep your distance. These words are not suggestions. They are lifelines born of tragedies that came before. Tourists, however, often see the bears differently. To them, the Carpathians are a safari without fences. When a bear wanders down toward the roadside, drawn by scraps of food tossed from cars, it becomes a photo opportunity. Children lifted onto shoulders for selfies. Couples stepping closer for a romantic picture. Drivers slowing down to toss bread or fruit to animals that should never be begging. Each gesture, however innocent it may seem, changes the bear. Every time a predator accepts food from a human hand, it loses something vital, fear. And once a bear loses its fear of people, it becomes something else entirely. No longer cautious, no longer distant, but bold. Bold enough to approach. Bold enough to test boundaries. And sometimes bold enough to attack. Authorities in Romania have long tried to contain this dangerous cycle. Bright red signs warn of the risks. Rangers patrol the roads. Wildlife experts speak urgently on television about the dangers of taming the wild with curiosity. Yet, year after year, the same scenes repeat. Tourists ignoring the warnings. Bears wandering closer. And tragedies that could have been avoided. Omar, like so many before him, was mesmerized by the sight of a bear on the roadside. He saw not a predator, but a magnificent creature, larger than life. To him, it was an extraordinary moment, the kind that demanded to be captured on film. His phone became his lens into this wild encounter, but also the blindfold that kept him from seeing the danger gathering in front of him. The truth is, Omar was not the first, nor would he be the last. In the past 2 decades, nearly 30 people have lost their lives to bear encounters in Romania, and each case followed a chillingly similar script: fascination, underestimation, and a single mistake that the wild does not forgive. What makes the Transfăgărășan Road so treacherous is not just its sharp bends or its high cliffs. It is the illusion it creates, the illusion that beauty can be tamed, that the wild can be folded neatly into our stories, our photos, our memories. But the Carpathians are not a playground. They are a kingdom, and in that kingdom the bear is sovereign. For Omar, the lure of the Carpathian bears would prove irresistible. He believed he had found beauty, but what he had really found was danger disguised as wonder. And once the boundary between human admiration and animal instinct was crossed, the outcome was no longer in his hands. The sun was beginning to dip over the Carpathian peaks when Omar slowed his motorcycle. The roar of the engine faded, replaced by the whisper of wind and the distant murmur of a mountain stream. He leaned against the guardrail, pulled out his phone, and lifted it to capture the endless curves of the legendary Transfăgărășan Road. And then movement. From beyond the tree-line, a shadow stirred. A brown bear, massive and deliberate, stepped into the open. Its thick coat shimmered under the golden light, every muscle beneath its fur taut with quiet power. To most people, this would be the moment to retreat, to put distance between themselves and the wild. But to Omar, it was something else entirely. "It's beautiful," he whispered into his phone's microphone. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with awe. The bear turned its head, nostrils flaring as it caught the scent of the road. Slowly, carefully, it ambled closer. Omar's camera captured every second. The towering frame of the animal, the shimmer of its eyes, the heavy breaths that echoed like drums in the silence of the valley. For those who would later watch the recovered footage, the moment felt cinematic, almost serene. A man and a beast, sharing space, separated only by a thin strip of asphalt and a fragile illusion of safety. But beneath that illusion was danger. Wildlife experts would later explain that bears conditioned by human presence no longer see people as untouchable. They see them as part of their environment, sometimes as a source of food, sometimes as a nuisance, but never as untouchable. What looked like curiosity in the bear's approach was, in reality, boldness born of repeated encounters with careless tourists. The bear moved closer to Omar's motorcycle, sniffing at the metal frame, towering high above the seat. Omar chuckled nervously, whispering again, "It's coming toward me." Yet he did not back away. His admiration blinded him to the truth. Each second he lingered was tightening a noose he could not see. To Omar, the phone was a shield. As long as the lens was pointed outward, he believed he was safe, as if recording the moment placed him outside of it. But nature does not pause for cameras. It does not respect the fragile boundary between curiosity and danger. In those fleeting minutes, Omar immortalized the kind of encounter that millions of people dream of but few would dare approach. He saw magnificence. He felt wonder, and perhaps he believed he had touched something timeless. But to the bear, Omar was not a filmmaker or a traveler. He was simply another human standing too close, another intruder lingering where he did not belong. The footage ends without violence. The bear wandered back toward the forest, its attention drifting elsewhere. Omar mounted his bike once again, exhilarated, smiling, proud of the moment he had captured. To him, the encounter was a triumph, proof of courage, a story to share. But what Omar could not have known was that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. His first meeting with the bear had planted a seed of overconfidence. Instead of being shaken, instead of recognizing the danger, he was inspired. Inspired to return. Inspired to push the boundary further. And in that decision lay the fatal flaw. Because wild animals are not actors. They do not repeat performances for the sake of our wonder. What Omar saw as beauty was, in reality, risk wrapped in fur and muscle. And the next time their paths crossed, the bear's instincts would not allow for another safe ending. The morning air in the Carpathians was cool, sharp, and deceptively peaceful. Mist hung low in the valleys as Omar once again mounted his motorcycle. For many, the encounter from the day before would have been enough. A once-in-a-lifetime brush with the wild, too close for comfort. But for Omar, it was not closure. It was an invitation. He had survived once. He had stood mere feet from a bear and walked away unscathed. That kind of survival plants a dangerous seed, the illusion that danger is not danger at all but destiny. He believed he could do it again. And this time he wanted more than video. He wanted a photograph that captured not just the bear, but himself with it. Proof of courage. A memory no one else could claim. So he returned. Alone. The same stretch of road that had enchanted him now felt like a stage, waiting for its final act. He parked his bike, pulled out his phone, and scanned the treeline. And then, as if answering a call, the bear appeared once more. But this was not the same bear he had filmed from a safe distance. She was larger, heavier, and not alone. Two cubs followed closely behind, stumbling clumsily over rocks and roots. And for anyone who knows the wild, there is no situation more dangerous than standing between a mother bear and her young. Omar, however, did not retreat. His eyes lit up. This was the moment he had dreamed of. Slowly, he stepped closer, arm outstretched, phone angled perfectly. His smile returned, wide, glowing, unshaken by the weight of instinct screaming at him to stop. The bear froze, her massive head lifting high, ears pinned back. Her breath came fast, visible in the cool air. To her, Omar was no longer harmless. He was a threat, too close to her cubs, too bold to be ignored. And then it happened. With a guttural roar, the bear charged. The forest exploded with sound, branches snapping, gravel scattering beneath claws as thick as knives. Omar turned, panic rising, the phone still in his hand. He ran, stumbling toward his motorcycle, but a human cannot outrun a bear. Not in open ground, not at such close range. The attack was swift and merciless. A swipe of her paw sent him crashing to the ground. The cubs squealed, retreating to the trees, as their mother unleashed her fury. For Omar, there was no chance, no escape. His final breaths were swallowed by the roar of the mountains. Passers-by later described the scene in horror. Cars stopped, horns blared, people screamed from a distance, too afraid to intervene. Some filmed, capturing fragments of chaos. Omar's broken phone buzzing faintly on the asphalt, the blurred shadow of the bear retreating into the trees. By the time rescuers arrived, it was too late. His body lay motionless, dragged a short distance from the road, guarded by the same bear that had ended his life. She lunged at the rescuers again and again, as if daring them to come closer, her cubs pressed tightly against her side. The fatal decision was not in the moment the bear attacked. It had been made long before, the moment Omar chose to believe he could step closer, that admiration outweighed instinct, that beauty could erase danger. In that instant, his story ended. A husband, a father, an adventurer, gone, not because of malice, not because of cruelty, but because of a single choice to cross a line that should never have been crossed. And the camera, his trusted witness, became the silent recorder of his final mistake. When the mountain silence finally returned, it was not peace that lingered in the air. It was horror. Omar lay motionless, dragged into the undergrowth. His phone cracked but still lit, glowing faintly with the last images he had captured. Moments earlier, his voice had been filled with awe. Now it was gone, replaced by the echo of chaos. Rescue teams rushed to the scene. Firefighters, mountain patrol, forestry officers. But what they found was more terrifying than they had imagined. The same bear, agitated and restless, circled them, lunging again and again as they tried to recover Omar's body. "She followed us the whole time," recalled mountain rescuer Drago Onia. "She attacked us more than once." It was not just a recovery mission. It was a battle against the wild itself. And in that battle, the rescuers already knew. Omar was gone. The images on his phone painted a chilling timeline. Just the day before, he had smiled for selfies, leaning dangerously close to the bear. "Look, a bear! How beautiful!" he had joked into the camera, the animal only feet away. Those photos, once joyful, were now evidence. A haunting reminder of how fascination had blurred into fatality. The news spread quickly. Within hours, headlines filled Romanian media. Tourist killed after selfie with bear. By dawn, the story had crossed Europe. In Italy, Omar's family received the call no one is ever prepared for. His wife's scream pierced the night, waking their children to a reality they could not comprehend. A father, a husband, a man who had lived for the thrill of adventure was gone forever. Neighbors in Omar's hometown gathered in disbelief. Friends remembered him as a warm, smiling presence, always curious, always chasing life. The bitter irony was unbearable. It was his smile, captured in one final photograph, that had led to such devastation. But grief was only the beginning. As the days unfolded, anger ignited. Romanian forestry authorities made their decision quickly. The bear would be tracked and killed. To them, it was a matter of public safety. An animal that had lost its fear of humans, that had killed once, could kill again. The logic was cold, practical, but not everyone agreed. Animal rights groups exploded with outrage. The bear was innocent, cried protesters in Bucharest, gathering with banners and chants. International organizations condemned the act, calling it a second tragedy. The bear, they argued, had not acted out of malice, but instinct. She was protecting her cubs, reacting to provocation, doing what wild animals are meant to do. To kill her was to punish nature for being natural. On social media, debates raged. Some condemned Omar, calling him reckless, careless, blinded by vanity. Others defended him as a victim of modern obsession, a man who simply underestimated the danger in his pursuit of beauty. Hashtags trended across Europe. Videos of the chaotic scene, shaky and filled with screams, were replayed endlessly. And yet, behind the noise, behind the anger, one truth remained clear. 2 lives had been lost. 1 human, 1 animal. Both victims of a moment that never should have happened. For Omar's family, the debate meant nothing. Headlines, hashtags, public anger. None of it could fill the empty chair at their table. None of it could bring back the laughter that once filled their home. For them, the tragedy was not about selfies or debates over wildlife policy. It was about absence. It was about love ripped away in an instant. But for the rest of the world, Omar's death became more than personal grief. It became a symbol, a warning carved into headlines and carried across borders. A reminder that the wild does not bend to our desire for beauty, and that curiosity, unchecked, unguarded, can become fatal. And so the outrage continued, echoing louder than the mountains themselves. Some saw justice in the killing of the bear. Others saw it as another unforgivable mistake. But in every version of the story, one chilling question lingered. If Omar had simply walked away, would both man and beast still be alive today? Omar's story is not just about one man and one bear. It's about all of us, about the choices we make when wonder collides with risk. We live in a world where every moment can be captured, shared, and remembered. But sometimes, in chasing the perfect picture, we forget that nature is not a backdrop. It is alive. It is powerful. It demands respect. The bear was not a villain. She was a mother protecting her cubs, acting on instinct as old as time. Omar was not a fool. He was a man overwhelmed by beauty, convinced he could step just a little closer. Together, their paths created a tragedy that could have been avoided. A tragedy that should remind us all. Admiration must never replace caution. Across the globe, hundreds of people have lost their lives to risky selfies and close encounters. Cliffs, oceans, wild animals. Each story leaves behind grief, anger, and lessons often learned too late. Omar's death is a warning written in blood and silence. The wild does not bend for our curiosity. But his story can also be more than tragedy. It can be a turning point for how we see wildlife, how we share our adventures, and how we remind each other that no photo, no video, no fleeting thrill is worth a life. If you felt the weight of this story, if you love animals, respect the wild, and want more true stories that reveal both its beauty and its danger, then join us. Subscribe to this channel, share this video, and help us spread one message: respect nature, cherish life, and never forget that the wild is not ours to control, only ours to protect.